In this episode, part one of creating a corporate social responsibility program, we explore the research phase and what goes into it. And we're starting right now. Hi everyone, I'm Carl. Welcome to the Social Impact Show, where CSR professionals get the latest strategies and tactics to help develop their goodness and CSR programs. Now remember, if this is your first time on this channel and you want to get the latest strategies from the experts, hit the subscription button below, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. So today I'm joined by Nicole Campbell, CSR expert, and we're going to talk about part one of our 5-part series on how to develop a corporate social responsibility program. And we're going to start with research. So Nicole, how does this work? Like when you're researching to start a CSR program, let's say from scratch in a company that maybe doesn't know anything about CSR, or maybe, has bits and pieces, where do you begin?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that you need to do is understand what sort of ad hoc, even small bits and pieces of CSR that are currently happening within your company. Often it really is the case where you'll have business units that are going out and volunteering. It's basically like doing a bit of an audit on the existing state of any sort of CSR actions that are currently existing. And then in addition to that, you need to know your stuff. So do some research on what's happening in the CSR landscape. So you can look at benchmarking reports like CECP giving in numbers, just to kind of see what other companies of similar size are doing to yours, how much they're spending, what their programs look like. And then also at Benevity, we have a wealth of information on exactly that. So you can definitely reach out to us too if you're curious, not just what other companies are doing, but what the best practices are. So you need to sort of equip yourself with this foundational knowledge first. Then what you need to do when you're trying to actually build this is start to make relationships internally and understand what your existing leaders actually care about when it relates to this work. So when I say do your research, I mean set up some interviews with HR business partners to ask them questions like, do you know of any executives that really care about social impact or giving back, or maybe they're doing it in their personal lives? You might be able to reach out to them and get their support and advocacy from the very beginning. What else you need to know is understand what your business priorities are more broadly. So for instance, if you want to bring in a CSR program, you're going to be needing to solve for the business in a meaningful way. And if you haven't already checked out our video on the benefits of CSR, check that out because it'll give you a bunch of stats to support these conversations. So are you trying to attract and retain talent right now? Are you struggling from a marketing perspective around a brand element of your business? These are the types of things that CSR can actually solve for, and you need to figure out exactly how you're going to align your work and your pitch to that.
I know we're going to touch on budget a little bit later in another video, but does the amount of budget that you potentially have impact the type of research that you do? Because if you're, and maybe the budget question is better served, not so much budget, but more of support. So let's say your organization has more support of developing a CSR program than another organization that has kind of minimal support. Do you do things a little different when you first start?
Yeah, so that will come later in the process because you're going to need to figure out where you best fit in the organization. Based on what those benefits are. So say the biggest priority in the business is around attracting, retaining talent, employee engagement. You should try and find yourself a role within, or the support within that organization. And then the money kind of follows from there. I think typically when you're trying to pitch a new program, what you'll be doing is benchmarking, like that's part of the research, to be able to present that to your leaders and say, this is the money, this is how much we should be investing. This is what we want to do to put our best foot forward. So it's more so working from that lens versus just trying to throw yourself in an organization that has more money. It needs to be the right fit, and then you can ask for the money that you need. It might not always work as right from the beginning, but that's part of the whole advocacy phase that we'll talk about a little bit later.
So you mentioned auditing, benchmarking, building those relationships, setting up those interviews, and then tying it back to the business, which is the most important thing too, because like we talked about in the benefits, yes, people want to know the brands and what they want to accomplish. Not accomplish, but what what causes they're supporting, and if they're living up to the missions and the values. But at the end of the day, I'm sure the question always comes back: how does this program have positive benefits to the business, not necessarily just from a goodness perspective, but also a bottom line perspective too, right?
Yeah, and we have a saying at Benevity, which is doing well by doing good. So you want to be doing it for the right reasons. You need to have that buy-in from leaders, that authenticity aspect of it. But in order to get to that point, sometimes you need to demonstrate that very clear line to the business, how you're solving for the business. And that's all part of the research and understanding where you should be drawing that line to. Unless you know that and you can clearly articulate what that is, you're going to be challenged. The other thing in terms of research, as you know, there's a whole bunch of different pillars under the CSR umbrella. And so you've got sustainability and supply chain and diversity and inclusion, all of those. But when you're looking at the employee engagement pillar, which is very important to your overall CSR strategy, you need to be researching with your employees too and understand what they care about. So you can do this through conducting surveys, in addition to focus groups and one-on-one interviews with a cross-section of employees across the organization to understand what do they care about? What do they expect you as an employer to be doing? How do they want to be incentivized or encouraged to get involved? This is really important data when you're doing your research, because you'll be using that at a later date to pitch the why. If your people, a huge stakeholder of your organization, care about this, you should be, listening to them if you're trying to support some of these engagement efforts that you may be prioritizing as a business.
And if you're getting value from this video, make sure to hit the like button. And the question of the day I have for you is, what other research techniques or elements have you done when you started your CSR program? We'd love to know. Let us know in the comment section below. So Nicole, in terms of research, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think, summarizing, get a sense of the CSR landscape if you don't have it through various reports, joining even LinkedIn networks. There's a CSR LinkedIn network, just to have a pulse on what's happening. Do an internal audit of what's happening in your organization. It really is important to understand what's happening, so you don't step on toes when you come in and start to pitch something new. Doing research internally in terms of stakeholders that might already have interest in this type of work, so you can reach out to them along the way and gain their support. And then really ensuring that you reach out to your employees to hear what they're saying, because you'll be using that at a later date. And we'll talk about benchmarking and how you're going to actually present that piece in a different video. But that I would say summarizes what you need to be doing from a research perspective.
So stay tuned for part 2 of how to develop a CSR program by watching this playlist here, and we'll see you in our next episode.